I'm excited about this. I'm excited because it's going to be an argument. There's Dave Marcus, my buddy Dave Marcus, of course, columnist. Everybody reads Dave's stuff, as you should. He's very hopeful. He's always been this way. So as long as I've known him, he's very, very hopeful. He has no time for this late-stage Republic talk. Karol, probably the Russian inner, much more along the lines of my thinking. Karol Markowicz, of course, columnist, host of the Karol Markowicz Show now, I should point out. Karol thinks we are a late-stage republic. Nations rise, nations fall, they grow, and they go down. That's the whole history of the world. Dave, I don't want to put a bunch of words in your mouth. I hand it off to you. I think it's very obvious. I'm not saying we're going out of business tomorrow, not at all, but it's very obvious we kind of hit the peak. Did we not hit the peak, Dave?
I don't think there's any reason to believe that we've hit the peak. I mean, we're still the preeminent superpower in the world. We're still obviously a place that millions and millions of people want to come to start a new life. I mean, I don't know about you, Jesse, but I've never met an American who said to me, you know what, I'm going to pack up my family. We're going to move to Russia. We're going to move to China, and I'm going to find them a better life. That doesn't happen, right? It only really happens the other way around. Now, look, we have a lot of problems. We have a bungling, awful president, right? We have a completely incompetent Congress. There's a lot to complain about. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, we're still the top of the heap here, and it's not particularly close.
Karol, what say you?
So I think you oversold me a little bit, because while Dave is often wrong, I'm actually closer to him here than I am to you, only because I agree with him that there is no better option. I think we're in deep trouble. I write this like very hopeful Americaversary piece every year on the day that my family came to America, and every year has been like sunshine and flowers for the last decade plus that I've been writing this column. And this last one, I have to say that it was my first time not feeling super optimistic about America. So I get what you're saying. I just think there's nobody around to overtake us right now, and there's no better option, as Dave says, much as, again, I hate to agree with him on anything. The truth is that we could turn this ship around, and we shouldn't give up on it. And there's nowhere else to go. Take it from somebody who has had to, escape the Soviet Union when I was a child, my family, and then leave New York which I loved so deeply and never wanted to go anywhere because I felt like I had to give my family a better life. There literally are no other options. We have to fight for this one.
Okay, well, I'm not arguing with that point. I'm not arguing that there are other options. And I'm not arguing that we should just lay down and not fight for the whole thing. Apparently, I have to be the bad guy here. But it's a little pie in the sky to just state that we are the best country in the world. Dave, I'm actually addressing this one to you first. Of course, we're still the best country in the world. Rome was still the most powerful empire in the world when it was on its downslope. That doesn't change the fact that it's on the downslope. And nations, even powerful ones, come apart all at once sometimes, Dave.
Yeah, no, look, I think that's right. And I think that we have some big problems in terms of our institutions. Obviously, what we're seeing on college campuses is a disgrace and just terrible, especially in light of the attacks on Israel. And also our cities. Karol mentioned leaving New York. I'm also a New York expat. And it breaks my heart what's happening in our cities. And I do think that if we don't get control of that, then we are in for problems. But look, it's a big country, right? Karol went to Florida. I went to West Virginia. I know you're, always sort of urging people to go find those enclaves where you can live your life the way that you want to. And that's still absolutely possible in the United States of America. And I think both of us are doing that.
Yeah, Karol, you did that, right? Mm-hmm. And Dave brings up an interesting point about our cities. There are two major symptoms when I look at the country. The state of our cities. Look, I love the country too, but people don't talk about, Montana, where I grew up, in Japan. They talk about going to New York City. Your city is what's on the billboard of your country in other nations. The state of our cities, and more importantly, the state of our institutions, Karol. Our institutions are hostile to the country itself. And institutions are what build a country, whether it's education, entertainment, government. Pick your institution. The friggin' CDC hates the country. How do you overcome that?
So I'm very big on step one always being facing reality. And the truth is that even people on the right ignored what was going on for so long, and they can no longer ignore it. So is it too late? I hope not. But for years and years, people on the right just said, I have to go to work. I have to take care of my kids. I can't be thinking about what they're teaching in teachers' colleges and that they're using Marxist books there. I can't be worrying about like the DEI and the corporations making people put their pronouns in their emails. I have things to do. And now they realize that they won't be able to do those things. They won't be able to just raise their families and teach them the kind of lessons that they want taught unless they fight this bigger cultural battle. So now that they have faced the reality that it won't be somebody else's problem, it won't be somebody else's fight, I think I've seen a united front in a way that I haven't before on the right. I think we're going to win. We have to win. I see this pendulum swinging backwards. They've gone too far in so many different ways. Little things like I think that the trans athletes thing has opened a lot of eyes. A lot of people who do not want to pay attention to politics and generally don't are like, wait a minute, a biological male is winning all the races against the biological females. How is this okay? And it is opening eyes. I just think we have to continue the fight and we can't give up. And again, nowhere else to go.
Dave, let's talk about college campuses, because you brought up the rot on college campuses and what we're seeing now. But the truth is, our problem is it doesn't stay on college campus. It hasn't stayed on college campuses. They graduate from these universities. Our most elite universities actually produce the worst commies in this country. And then they move on and they run our Fortune 500 companies. They become United States senators. They become presidents. That is the problem. Our rot didn't stay down here with 18-year-old idiots. Our rot, it worked its way up. How do we change that?
Well, it took some time, right? I mean, I remember when all of this stuff was starting in the early 90s. Like, I was in high school at the time when a lot of this sort of like, at the time we called it political correctness, but, you know, the time when a lot of this diversity stuff and valuing differences and these things, and it was only located really in academic institutions. But you're right, over time, that's advanced. It's become malignant. And, you know, yes, Fortune 500 companies and the Senate, but what about the New York Times? What about CNN? What about, Disney? Everything that gets produced is being produced by people who exist with this sort of sense of a hierarchy of oppression, where if you're the oppressed person, you can do no wrong. And if you're the oppressor, you can do no right. And that's got to get smashed. I mean, that has to end. And I think Karol's right. I heard David Mamet talk about this earlier today as well. Like, stop sending your kids to these schools. Just stop.
I'm mixed on
Karol?
that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm mixed on that. I agree that these institutions are broken and in trouble. And I'm not sure that shunning them is the right path. The people who graduate these schools do still go on to these positions of power. So why wouldn't I want my children who are raised in this anti-woke, environment in our home, who are they're young, so I don't want to call them like conservatives, but they are. They're my anti-woke police. Why wouldn't I want them to go to those schools, graduate, get to those top positions, and them be in control? Ann Coulter said a million years ago, the college kids who are conservative on campus and then they graduate and they go work for like AmericanPatriot.com instead of working for the New York Times, that's a problem. We should get people working at the New York Times who have our point of view. We should have our kids go to Yale and Harvard and change it. We can't just surrender. And so I'm going to lay down the foundation for my kids at home. And then wherever they want to go, I'm going to trust that they're going to be able to defend themselves and their positions.
See, we found a way to disagree.
Yeah, I like that.
See, you did. And look, the truth is I disagree with both of you. And since I have to let you go, I'm up against the clock. I disagree with both of you. I think the best thing we could do would be fire every employee at these universities, demo the buildings, and create a statue to Karl Marx there. And that's really the way you would solve this. That's the Jesse Kelly solution. Dave, Karol, I love you guys. See you.
Thank you, Jesse.